Hello, Dragonfire here, and I have finished watching all five of the Rambo movies, and so it is time to do my ranking. I did ranking on each individual movies, so now it's time to move on from the individual movies to the ranking of the entire franchise. Okay. Um, so we have the Rambo franchise and got this nice box set. Um, this one has the first four movies that came out before the fifth one. This box set. So there was Rambo. The first Rambo movie was called First Blood. Then there was Rambo First Blood Part 2, or Second Blood, Rambo 2, whatever you want to call it. And I've got the folds out here, and it's got Rambo 3. The fourth movie was just called Rambo. So Rambo 4. Third Blood and Fourth Blood, I guess you could say. And then we got Rambo 5, Last Blood. Rambo Last Blood. Okay, so how am I going to rank this franchise? I'm really doing this off the top of my head here. I just want to say that all these movies are enjoyable. But, got to give them some sort of ranking. So I think for my number 5, the one that really kind of didn't hit as well in this latest rewatch, I guess, would be Rambo 3. Third Blood, if you will. Nothing wrong with this movie. And going into this, before this latest rewatch, I might have said, oh yeah, the original trilogy, the ones that were made in the 80s, are the best. No doubt about it. They're the best. Yeah, I probably would have said, oh yeah, I'm going to rank the original trilogy the highest. But now, after having rewatched them, I'm like, yeah, okay, it was all right, but you know what? Just some of the other movies in the franchise, obviously, like 4 and 5, I enjoyed more than 3. So kind of interesting. I guess maybe just my tastes have changed over time, or I've just seen the movie too many times, or whatever it is. But this movie didn't keep my attention as well this time around. Okay? And along those similar lines, I think I'm going to go with my number 4 as Rambo First Blood Part 2, or Second Blood, or Rambo 2, whatever you want to call it. The second movie in the franchise. Another 80s action blockbuster. Really fun movie, as is Rambo 3, especially the first time you see him, or maybe even the first few times you see him. Maybe I'm just a bit worn out on these movies now. But Rambo 2 is going to get my 4th place. Again, going into this, I really thought that the original trilogy would top my list, but it's not topping my list because I just rewatched all 5 of these movies, and I'm like, it was good, but it wasn't great. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't the way I remember it. Now, if I had a clean slate where I was just watching all 5 movies for the first time, would they be ranked in the same order I'm ranking them right now? Maybe not. But this is how I'm ranking them now. So, let's see. I think for my number 3, um, I'm going with Rambo. You can call this Fourth Blood or Rambo 4 or whatever you want to call it. That's going to be my number 4. And this one, um, uh, I feel like did such a great job of bringing it back. You had the original trilogy came out in the 1980s, and you had nothing in the 1990s, and it's like, and then all of a sudden, well over a decade, almost 2 decades pass, and it's like, oh man, they're making another Rambo. Is that even going to be any good? Well, surprisingly, yes. Rambo 4 is actually really good, really fun movie. This is, I think, in that era where this kind of stuff started to become a trend, like calling this movie just Rambo instead of Rambo 4 or Fourth Blood or First Blood Part 4 or whatever. Like this became like a trend at this time. Like Rambo did it, Star Trek did it. They put out a movie just called Star Trek. There were probably others. There were probably others that did something similar, but these are the two I can remember off the top of my head. But I think a number of movies have done it since, where they just call a movie, you know, whatever it is. Halloween. Halloween is another example where it was just called Halloween, even though there were already 2 other movies called that. And it wasn't even a remake, it was a sequel, but they still called it Halloween in 2018. So, okay, so we had those movies. So now it's down to my top 2. I'm going to shock some people with this, but I think I'm gonna go with First Blood as my number 2. This is great movie. It sets everything up that eventually that continues to pay off throughout the rest of the series. But an enjoyable movie. It really shifts back and forth in tone. Can't decide whether it wants to be a serious drama about a Vietnam veteran experiencing PTSD after coming home from the war, or if it wants to be an over-the-top 80s blockbuster action movie. An action thriller blockbuster movie, but still fun nonetheless. It's fun and serious at the same time. Enjoyable movie, kick off the franchise. I really do recommend that you watch the entire franchise. I know this is gonna be controversial. Everyone, almost in every franchise, a lot of people pick the first movie as the best. But I actually really enjoyed watching First Blood this time around, or sorry, Last Blood, or Fifth Blood, or Rambo 5, whatever you want to call it, Rambo Part 5, whatever variation you can think of there. But yeah, officially the movie is called Rambo Last Blood. And yeah, this movie surprised me with how good it was. Interesting story. I like seeing the Rambo character come full circle, where he is finally living at peace. Like in part 2, or sorry, in part 1, Rambo is struggling with coming home from the Vietnam War. He's experienced some PTSD, and the small town sheriff, small town law enforcement really set Rambo off. In part 2, he's he gets the chance to go abroad and to go on to this mission. They'll let him out of prison as long as he helps the government do this thing. So, um, he's been in prison between the first and second films, but he gets out and they send him overseas, and he does help complete the mission, but then he just kind of never goes back to America. He stays overseas, and that's where he is in the third movie and in the fourth movie. But at the end of the fourth movie, he goes home, and that in seeing him return home at the end of the fourth movie might have been a good ending for the series, of just saying he finally kind of conquered his demons and went back home. And he's far enough removed that nobody is really looking for him. He's probably missing and presumed dead at this point. Plus, I think he maybe got a pardon because he helped in the mission in part two. So they pardoned, whatever crimes he was found guilty of from the first movie. So that could have been a fine ending to the character, but I'm really glad that they brought it back and have one more thing, because this is like, Rambo always finds himself in these situations where he has to put himself in the way of these bad guys and take them out. That's what Rambo's, this ultimate soldier, this ultimate fighter. And so at the end of the movie, spoiler, but Rambo does die, or seemingly dies. He ends up killing all the bad guys, but then he kind of sits back on his porch and kind of watches the sunset as the sun is setting in his life, because he's been shot a couple times in the ordeal. So he's gonna die at the end of the movie. But it's kind of like he dies mission completed. And so I thought that was really good. Like, to me sometimes a good ending way to wrap up such an iconic character like that, and was what they do with this final movie in Rambo, is they really wrap it up and say, okay, Rambo is I think his character needed to die. You don't cheat death as many times as Rambo has and then it not catch up with you. So it catches up with him at the end. But that's okay, because he's accomplished his mission. He's done everything that he needed to do. So that's why this is my favorite, because it comes back around full circle and brings a satisfying conclusion to the character. So give me your ranking in the comments section. Thanks everybody. Dragonfire out.